everybody. Tonight we have Micah Mattingly with us. He has started Newcastle Neighborhood Watch. And so tonight we're going to talk to him about how that got started, his vision, what's transpired, and ask him a few questions about what he's seen and what's going on in his life today. He's also taken on a new position. He is on the Henry Township Trustee Board as one of the board members there. And so we'll get into that a little bit also. So Micah, good to have you here. And so you've been busy since the election. So I know some of the background to this just because we ran together and talked about things during the campaign. But I'll let you start. How did this all begin? When did you get a vision for it? And then how did it kind of continue to roll from there?
Sure. First of all, Clay, thank you for allowing me to be here. I know this is something that was spoken about during the election time. You know, every election cycle, there's words like accountability and transparency thrown out there. And you know, just through the course of door knocking and speaking with citizens, there was quite a few gaps that seemed like it needed to be filled. There was a communication, unfortunately, in towns like Newcastle, small towns. There tends to be this silo of information, and it's not distributed to the citizens. And so, when we were door knocking, a lot of people came forward and wanted just more information about certain things. And through the course of talking with them, trying to figure out what they're looking for, you know, information about the community, information about what's going on in their neighborhoods, information about what's going on with the youth programs in the community, were all things that were talked about. And so, and safety was one of the major topics that got brought up. I know Cameron Grimm had done a survey, and that was one of the main feedbacks that he got within the community was just safety. And so just talking with the neighbors and talking with the community, you know, I always tell everyone, I made a few promises during campaign time, and I've kept all of them minus a couple that would have required me to become elected. But the ones that I have kept, this is one of them, is starting the Neighborhood Watch program. And we have seen major success over the course of the year. Just January was our 1 year anniversary with the program. And so it's been going for a year, and it's just something that came about during the election time that people felt that having a safe space and having the ability to come together and talk about the community and talk about what's going on in their area was needed. And so that's something that we started.
Yeah. So, and that was one of the questions I was going to ask is when it actually started. So obviously the election was in November of 23. And so we wrapped that up, and we all needed a little bit of a break, but you got right on it and started up in January of 24.
Yes, sir.
Is that right? Okay.
Yes, sir. Yep. And well, even before that, in December, we kind of a pre-kickoff to the Neighborhood Watch. We knew that that was something in the work, but we did a clothing drive that we connected with the Henry County Republicans Club, that we kind of connected into that. But this was something that we were always trying to kick around, and we knew that this was going to happen. I didn't know, had I gotten elected, how this was going to transpire, how it was going to play out, but we knew that it was something that was going to happen sooner or later.
Yeah. Okay. So, what have you seen? So it's a year anniversary. Did you have some growing pains? Who's involved? What do your meetings look like?
Sure.
You know, what has transpired in that year? What successes have you seen? And maybe what have you learned as you look, you know, to year number 2?
Yeah. So we originally started our first couple of meetings. We held it at the Henry Community Township building, the community center. And with that being sold and being renovated, we found a new location. And so we hold our meetings the first Tuesday of every month. Now, granted, you know, in November, that's an election day, and there's different times. So we change it. We have a Facebook page, Newcastle Neighborhood Watch Association. So It is a private group, just due to privacy of the people involved with the group. So you have to submit a request to be a member of that page. But as long as you're a Newcastle or Henry County resident, we'll accept you. But we have the meetings the first Tuesday of the month. It is at Victory Church, the old Marsh building, right next to Sherwin-Williams, 2915 South 14th Street. And so the first year, there was some ups and downs. It's really cool because we didn't know when we first started. It was very much a free form, open discussion,
Okay, yeah.
and it's kind of morphed into a lot of educational things. We had just 2 months ago, we had Dr. Erica Kane. She came out and did a self-defense, personal safety class.
Okay.
And then a couple months before that, we had Deputy
During that
Prosecutor.
class, was that like instructional, here's what to watch for, or was there any like hands-on, like,
No,
yeah,
both. Yeah,
yeah,
it was
yeah?
hands-on. She had a dummy there that she was teaching, and we got a real good feedback from a lot of the members that said it was very informative. Something simple as being alone at night and wearing a hoodie,
Okay.
and not realizing how quickly someone can grab the back of that hoodie and twist it, and it can start to mess with your airway, and then you begin to fight. So it was very
Okay,
informative,
yeah,
and
yeah.
opened your mind to some different tactics, that flight or fear type mentality. She's very great. She teaches the class at the YMCA. But the goal was to partner with different people within the community. Before that, we had Deputy Prosecutor Rick Allen come out, and
Yeah.
he did a Drugs 101 class. It was something that he created while he was in Marion County for the landlords and homeowners to recognize the different various types of illicit drugs that are on the street. What were the slang terms for them? How they affected the body, and then what could counteract them as well. We followed that up with, at that same meeting, having Angela Cox, the health director. She came out and she delivered a presentation that showed residents how to administer Narcan. And she then even gave out cases or packages of Narcan to the residents to take home with themselves so that they could keep that for safekeeping as well. Um, so it was the growing pains that we've established were just trying to figure out the flow of the meeting and what we were going to do. The cool thing that we really like is that we've partnered with the police department, the Newcastle Police Department.
Okay,
Chief
yeah.
Schofield has been very much supportive of this program. As far as there's always a liaison, it's typically Officer Medford, but there is different police officers that do come. So they are there, and we discuss what's going on in the community. We discuss what's going on in the neighborhood. We allow the members or people just visiting to openly discuss what's happening in their community, in their neighborhood. And then the police officer sticks around in case they have something private or something they want to speak with offline. They're always there for questions. The police officer that's there is taking notes. He's taking it back. He's talking with Chief Schofield. He's following up with homeowners. I know we have some homeowners that are dealing with some issues with some neighbors on the backside of them, and they communicate on a regular basis. And that connection was
Okay.
made through the Neighborhood Watch program. Um, so it's morphed into this ability for you to come, and I wouldn't say vent, but you certainly can come and vent about what's going on and some things that you're seeing. But when you speak up and you bring these issues or this discussion forward, the police department's on hand and they're trying to take action. They're taking note of what the issue is. We have
Yeah,
residents talking about people drag racing, in the middle of the night in front of their street, or speeding
yeah,
and they have kids on the street. So there's different things like that take place. But
yeah.
what's really cool is next month we have the Newcastle Fire Department's going to be there, and we're going to do a fire safety, home protection type little discussion. Someone will be the fire department liaison will be there to discuss what's going on, how to protect your home, the signs, making sure your smoke detectors are up to date, and kind of just giving a discussion
Yeah.
about how to protect your home about that. And then we're going to follow that up with having someone from an insurance company come out the following month and talk about what type of insurance you may need in case of a fire, break-ins, and things like that.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Have you got to the is this even on the radar where you have I don't know, like divide Newcastle up by sections or
Yeah.
and have captains and things like that? Have you done any of that? Have you thought about that or what?
That's absolutely 100% the goal. Right now,
Okay.
we're just trying to build up the base. When we started, we had about 5 to 10 people. I'd say closer to five on our first meeting or two. But as we begin to have these educational discussions and we begin to invite various people from the community to come speak, we're up to about 25, 30 on a regular basis with
Wow.
about
That's awesome.
45, 50 people to where they kind of rotate in and out. They make it when they can.
Sure.
And it doesn't hurt that the church that we go to has a little coffee shop set up as well.
Yeah.
So there's coffee and things like that available to
Oh,
the public.
available there. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So, but yeah, the ultimate goal would be to have it broken down into basically the wards and the captains, and even if it gets flooded with members, broken down to certain specific neighborhoods, and there being a point contact, a captain that's over that
Yeah.
neighborhood, and ideally, we would love to see them to start holding meetings more locally centralized. We have people that come from Knightstown. We have people that come from just out in the country that aren't specific to Newcastle proper, the city.
Okay.
But we're okay with that. We what we're
Have they
talking
thought
about.
about, has any of them asked you about maybe starting something like that where they're at or
I know Knightstown has a Facebook page. It's called Knightstown Crime Watch or Knightstown Neighborhood Watch or something of that
okay,
nature.
okay.
I don't know how it's ran, but that is something that is part of our next step would be to create something like a Henry County coalition where we connect all the cities and try to start a crime watch program, try to start that neighborhood watch program within each of the different cities, and then have one big meeting where we can come together and discuss what's particularly impacting the neighborhoods. Now, this is not a referendum on the police department
Right,
or first responders.
right.
They do an amazing job. We love them. We know that they do fantastic jobs.
But they're limited.
This They're limited, and this is just kind of that gap filler, right? It's that
Right, right.
opportunity to know your neighbor. That's bottom line is what the whole program comes down to is we want you to know who your neighbor is. Times have changed. It's not the same neighborhood that we grew up in. I'm a transplant. I've lived in Newcastle for 5 years, and in the
Yeah.
town that I grew up in, my entire life, we never locked our front or back door. And so, but now my parents live there and now they've got an alarm system. They got the ring cameras. They've got all that because things have changed. It's not the 1980s. It's not the 1990s anymore. And
Back in the neighborhood you grew up in?
yeah, back in the
Okay,
neighborhood I grew
okay.
up in was a
So they're
small
still
town.
there.
Yeah, they're still there. They
Yeah.
still live in the same town. They lived in the same house up until 5 years ago. It was my only house I've ever known my entire life. Was
Okay,
my
okay.
childhood home. So, very small, quaint town. There's no hardly any crime, speeding, or maybe a little small petty theft here and there is all they had. But we don't live in those neighborhoods anymore. That's not the time and age that we live in. And so, knowing who your neighbor is,
Yeah,
knowing we call it the buddy system, and that's
yeah.
where you have a trusted person within your neighborhood that you can say, "Hey, I'm going on vacation. Can you keep an eye out? I'm going to leave the front light on. Can you pick up the packages so people don't realize I'm not
Right,
home?
right.
Can you come take my garbage cans from the street to the back of the house so that people don't realize that I'm on vacation or not there?" So little small tips like that we try to educate and let people know
Yeah.
to kind
And
of
don't
just.
post all your pictures on Facebook while you're gone.
Yeah, that's exactly. We've told people that wait till you get home from vacation to post your vacation pictures, not
Right?
to alert people to know that you're on vacation and your home's an easy target. But just knowing your neighbors, something simple as we have a registration form. Some members have elected to fill it out. Some people haven't. but it lists the number of residents in your home. We don't ask for their name or their ages. It just says how many live in your home, along with how many pets, so that when we get to the point of having someone, a representative on every street in every neighborhood, if there's a fire, you can alert the neighborhood, or you can alert the fire department and say, hey, I know who lives there. Based on what they filled out, there's 2 cats, 3 adults, 2 children,
Yeah, sure.
and kind of give that information and be a help and a extra benefit to the police, fire department at that point. So
Sure, sure.
these are just the small things that we're trying to
Yeah,
add value, to the neighborhood and to the homes and the residents of Newcastle.
yeah. I think it's I think it's been pretty awesome actually. S- Again, when we were just campaigning and you were getting to know Newcastle better, and even I was getting to know Newcastle better during that time, even though I've lived here for quite a while. Um, when you focus and you start talking and you start reaching in and going to all the parts of the city,
Hmm.
you learn quite a bit, right? So
Yep.
I think it's really neat to see that, you campaigned on that politically, but then it was passionate to you, or you were passionate about it so much so that you continued it on, and it seems like it's been a success.
Yeah. It has been.
Anytime you can get on a regular basis during the week 20 to 30 people to show up to a meeting like that in a town like this, right? As
Yeah.
far as population wise, that's awesome. I mean,
Yes,
you can
sir.
barely get that many people to show up on midweek church. You know what I mean?
Yes,
So,
sir.
so,
That's the truth.
but so on before we jump to your new position, I want to ask, so obviously we ruffled quite a bit of feathers during the campaign,
Mhm.
and we were liars, and we were conniving, and
Mhm.
we were running
Pot
an
stirs.
unscrupulous campaign.
Yes, sir.
But after that, once the dust cleared and we all got beat, how has city leadership come on board with this? How have those connections been, or those bridges been mended or fixed? Or, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What have you seen there?
I have seen very almost 100% participation and support from the council itself. We had a spring cleanup this past spring, and we had 2 of the councilmen come out and participate. Councilman Mike Guffey and Councilman Mark Koger came
Okay,
out and cleaned up. We cleaned up along the railroad tracks, and over by the school. And they came out and they brought the weed eater, they brought trash bags, they pitched right in and started helping and cleaning. And there's a line of communication with all of them. I just messaged them a couple days ago, letting them know that the new spring cleanup will be coming around. And I reach out to them to get suggestions on parts of the town, of their ward, that could use a little extra TLC from just a group of volunteers that are wanting to do
sure,
some cleanup. And they all respond. They all get back with me. I know one councilman doesn't have Facebook, so don't. I speak with him whenever we go to the meetings, but it's
sure,
been good support. Councilman Rex Peckenhall, he's came a few times, been a big advocate and very supportive of it. He and I sat down after the campaign, and he and I kind of sent messages to one another stating that, hey, we may have done ourselves a disservice by not getting to know one another before campaigning. And we had lunch and we talked about what I wanted to achieve with the city. And I listened to where he came from and all of his wisdom with his years on the council and being a resident here of Newcastle. And that was one of the things I had to learn really quickly, is, yeah, I wanted to ruffle feathers because I felt that there was a lot of stagnation within the leadership of any town where you have people that are serving for 12, 15, 16 years. For me, I don't feel that there's a lot of new ideas being brought to the table. So, of course, I wanted to ruffle feathers because this is my town. I have little kids. I have 2 teenagers. I have 2 littles. And so this is the town in which I will be handing over to them and saying either start your life or start a family, or they may want to leave and never come back, which is fine, but this is our hometown. And so I want to leave this community in a better shape than which I found it. And so I want to do everything that I can to give back to them. And so I knew ruffling feathers was going to cause some division. It's going to cause some people to kind of, say the things that they said about our campaign and about me personally. But I knew the truth, and I knew what was right, and I knew what needed to be said. And if that caused them to kind of start looking at things and getting behind certain programs and getting motivated, then I consider that a win. So if everything that I campaigned with to led up to starting the Neighborhood Watch Association and them getting behind it, then I consider that a success, and I'm very thankful for that.
Yeah, well, and those guys with the political experience they have, you see, and I know even when I was involved in the county stuff, election after election, you see individuals run, campaign, say a lot of stuff, and then once they get beat, they blow away. Like you
Yeah,
don't see them, you don't hear from them. And I think that's one thing that I am sure that they have appreciated about you is that you came, you said all your stuff, you stood your ground, you did your thing. But then when it was over, you got beat and then
yeah,
you dusted off and then you continued on doing what you said you was going to do.
yeah,
And so I think that that garners respect, right? And I think they've seen that and appreciate that. And so I would think that would be one reason why, um, like you said, with Rex reaching out and you guys getting together, and um, so I think that's good. And I think seeds were planted. That's the thing. I think we overestimate what we can accomplish in a year, but we underestimate what we can accomplish in 10 years.
sure.
It's all about plodding along, steady progression. And that's even why, these little recordings that I've started doing recently, um, there's part of me that's like, man, I don't want to do any of this anymore. Like I just want to live my life and go away,
Yeah,
right? And I do a little newsletter just based around the city finances because that was one thing I really got into during the campaign.
yeah,
And again, there's a part of me that's like, I just don't want to do this anymore. But I'm always drawn back because that's funny. Get my cats back there. Uh, I always get drawn back in because I look at it like, okay, these are just seeds. I'm not trying to win the race next weekend. I'm planting seeds so that hopefully when the day comes that I may even move away from here, um, some people got inspired and have dug in and that it's a better community because of it, right?
yeah.
Um, so anyways, I don't
Well,
know. That's a little,
that was one of the things, Clay, that was brought up was, before I moved to Newcastle, yes, I was up to date and I stayed up on what was going on in my hometown politically. And I stayed up to date with what was going on nationally and even on a state level. But my voting record was non-existent. I felt no need to it because I understood the electoral college. I understood all that. So me taking my time to go to the poll just didn't seem like it was worth it to me. And then when I moved to Newcastle and I spoke with you and I started to hear what I felt was a lack of leadership top down, and I began to look at certain things and people saying, well, we can't hold the mayor accountable and we can't do this and we can't do that. It just stirred something up in me to that just said, we can do things better and we can look at things in a different way and we can hold them accountable. I don't subscribe to the fact that certain people's hands are tied. But it caused me to want to get involved. And that was one of the things that was brought up, while we were campaigning. Well, why haven't you, your voting record's non existent? Well, I didn't quite frankly wanted to get involved and do anything until I moved to Newcastle.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say what bad shape it was in, but I saw that there was some gap in leadership, and I saw that, and it didn't necessarily mean I had to fill it, but if I could, again, like you said, start a conversation, plant a seed, or inspire someone else to get up off the couch and go say, hey, I want to serve my community and I want to do something
Yeah.
better for my community, then it's all been worth it. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it wasn't until I moved to town that I wanted to start getting involved in doing these things because my wife and I, when we moved to Newcastle, it was kind of to be closer to my kids, but restart our lives here in this area. And it's been a success for my job. It's been a success for our family and our careers. And so I love Newcastle, and I hear people talk about it, and it hurts me a little bit to hear people say, certain things about Chrysler leaving, and I'm still learning about all the ins
The
and outs and
history, right?
the
Yeah.
history of the town.
There's a
Yeah,
lot of history.
and it's very fascinating, and
Yeah.
it's a beautiful town. And I want it to be in better shape than when I found it, and I'm very thankful for what it's done for my life and the church that we have found here in town.
Sure.
And so I just want to serve and be a help in any capacity. And I'm thankful that we've been able to start the Neighborhood Watch program. And I'm a firm believer that an informed citizen is an engaged citizen, but an engaged citizen is a very safe citizen. And so if you have the information to help you in times of crisis, if you have the information that you need when the emergency hits your home, when it hits your family, are you prepared? Or do you have your travel preparedness kit in your vehicle? Are you prepared in the case of an emergency? And
Sure.
those are the things that we want to talk about, not only keeping our streets safe, not only keeping our homes protected, but are we prepared as a family and as leaders of our home and leaders of
Sure.
this community? Are we prepared in times of emergency? And that's ultimately what we want to do and achieve with the Neighborhood Watch Association.
Absolutely. Well, and it again sounds like you're well on your way. You've had a successful first year, and
Yeah,
you keep rolling along. And I keep seeing new stuff. It's like I can tell you're developing. I can tell more
yeah,
people are coming on board
yeah.
and having confidence in it, and seeing that there's value to this.
A big help, and I don't want to leave off if we change the subject here. I don't want to leave off the fact that Cameron Grimm, he campaigned with us and he ran for city
Yes. Yes.
council as well. Him and his wife Samantha have been massive assets. They have come on. He's the one that does all the flyers and does a
Oh
lot
wow.
of
Okay.
putting things
Awesome.
together. He developed the logo,
Extremely
and
talented.
he extremely talented. The what he why he isn't running a multi-billion-dollar multimedia and visual and audio
Yeah.
company blows me away with how talented he is. But him and his wife, as soon as the meetings are over the next day, I always say, "Hey, how did it go? What can we learn from this?" And then I always say, "What should we do next month? What this is what I'm thinking. What do you think?" And they'll say either, "Hey, yeah, that sounds great. Let's go that direction," or "Hey, what about this?" And they're just a good sounding board. And again,
Awesome.
that passion came from when we were running and campaigning, and the
Absolutely.
desire.
Absolutely.
Safety was a big topic on his part as well. So
Yeah.
I don't want to leave that
He
off of.
he actually did very well. I think
He
he
did.
did the best out of all of us, to be
We
honest.
were talking about the other day. I think the closest
Yeah.
margin of the election of any of
Yeah.
us did.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Micah, we've got to go. I'm
Yep.
running out of time, but I appreciate you coming on,
No problem.
and we'll catch up again. And
Sure.
wish you well.
Yes,
And
sir.
we'll keep the Lord involved in all of it.
Amen. I'll be
And
praying for you.
with his wisdom, right?
Yes, sir.
We'll figure some stuff out. So hey, I appreciate it. Thanks for coming on and
All right.
sharing the information.
No
And
problem.
we'll be sure to spread the word.
Thanks for letting me talk about it. Love you. Send your thoughts and prayers to your family and the kids, and have a good night, bud.
Absolutely appreciate it.
Yes,
Back
sir.
at you, brother. We'll see you.
Bye.